Alright boys and girls, I hope you're having a lovely day. Okay, today lads, I wanted to talk about my games of the year, okay, and I'm going to be doing this a little bit differently to like how most people would do their game of the year. Most people would talk about their favourite games that came out specifically this year, whereas I'm going to be talking about games that have come out all over the place, okay. There's lots of retro games in here, there's lots of modern stuff, there's just games from all time periods. And the reason I want to do it like this lads is that I actually haven't played that many games that came out this year. I've played a handful and some of them will feature in this video, but most of the games I've played this year came out, you know, it's like a lot of retro stuff. So I've got a ton of games in front of me right now, lads, that I'm looking at right now. There's about 20 plus games here, okay, and I'm just gonna very briefly talk about these games and tell you guys why I enjoyed them so much. I've probably beaten well over like 100 games this year, okay, so what I've got in front of me is just all the highlights, okay. These are my favorite games that I come across this year. And also I'm not gonna be talking about games that I've played before, okay, so games like Sekiro, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, Ghost Runner, I've played those games many times. I did play them this year and beat them, but because I've beaten them before and I know I love those games, there's no point me talking about them again. So all the games I'm going to be talking about today are going to be games that I've played for the first time ever, except for one game, okay, and that one game is a game that I've just done a complete 180 on my opinion on it. Like, I love it so much more than I used to, so I feel like it's worth highlighting. But anyway, boys and girls, let's stop talking about it, let's just get straight into it, okay. I don't even know where to begin. I'm gonna kick things off with a game that did come out this year, okay, and that is going to be SpongeBob the Cosmic Shake. This game came out really early on this year, okay, and I knew I was going to get this game because I absolutely love Battle for Bikini Bottom. It's like one of my favourite childhood games of all time, so I knew I wanted to get this one because obviously it's not like a sequel to Battle for Bikini Bottom, but it's kind of like a spin-off, you know, it plays very similarly. Yeah, I absolutely adored this game, lads, okay. It was just a really fun, classic 3D platformer, you know. It didn't feel like a game that came out in 2023. It felt like a game that came out in 2005, you know. It almost felt like it was Battle for Bikini Bottom that I was playing, you know. It brought me back to the past a little bit.
Hello? I love you.
I think I beat this one in literally like 2 days. It wasn't a very long game, okay, but I just remember playing it. I was just watching some YouTube in the background, or maybe it was Twitch, I can't remember, and I was just chilling, you know. I was having a good time, and then I beat it, and I was like, you know what, that was a really fun game, okay. It's not like the most incredible game I've ever played in my life. It didn't blow me away, but it was just incredibly fun, and I just enjoyed it for what it was. Okay then, boys and girls, let's talk about a game on the Nintendo Switch, okay, and we're gonna talk about Cuphead, okay. This game I beat very recently. I think it was literally the other day I beat this game. Oh my god, what a fucking game, okay. This game is unbelievably good. This is one that I did play like a good few years ago. I had it digitally on my PS4, and I got about, I think I got to the second world, or the second island, whatever you want to call it. I didn't get super far with it because it's obviously a really hard game, but I made a little bit of progress. I enjoyed what I played of it, okay. I loved the music, the art style and stuff like that, but it was incredibly hard, okay, and I ended up putting it down. I thought, you know what, I can't do it, okay. I gave up on it. However, this game did eventually get announced to get a physical, okay, and you guys know me, I love my physical games, so I had my eye on it since it got the physical release, and I decided to pick it up very recently, and honestly, I just sort of went in with the mindset of, I'm just gonna play it, and, you know, I'll get as far as I can, and then when I get stuck, I'll just put it down. That was my thinking process. But honestly, lads, I just couldn't put this game down, okay. I just really clicked with it second time around, and I ended up playing through the whole thing, and yes, I did struggle, and yes, it was hard, but I didn't want to give up on it, you know. I wanted to beat it. Yeah, there were some super hard moments in there that made me want to quit, okay. I can remember there's one, Dr. Khalees, I can't remember his name. I think that's his name, but honestly I can't remember. Oh my god, that took me like 2 hours. I was raging hard with that one. Also, King Dice was an absolute pain in the ass. Hated that boss, okay. It was so hard because obviously you have to fight like tons of mini bosses, and yeah, I did not enjoy that one, but I still thoroughly enjoyed my time with it, lads, and of course I did beat it. I haven't played through the DLC levels, okay. I thought, you know what, let me just stick to the main game and I'll come back to the DLC later. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one, lads, okay. I would recommend it if you like your hard games. It was tough, but I fucking loved it. Okay then, boys and girls, let's get a little bit retro in here, okay. We got some modern stuff here, but let's get a little bit retro, okay. We're gonna talk about Silent Hill, okay. I played Silent Hill for the first time this year. Oh, what a game, boys. What a horror game. I'm still fairly new to the Silent Hill series, boys, okay. I've only played Silent Hill 1 and Silent Hill 2. I still need to play Silent Hill 3, which I'm hoping to play next year, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, Silent Hill 1, it was an absolute masterpiece, boys. Okay, the puzzles were mwah, the horror, mwah, just everything about this game was perfect. Okay, I loved every second of it. I say that, I didn't, because they were scaring the absolute shit out of me.
There is a choice.
But I still had a great time with it, lads. Okay, it was literally like it was horror game perfection. Even visually, this game, you know, I was thinking, oh, maybe it's not going to look so great because it's on the PS1, and obviously the PS1 is notorious for not having the best aging graphics, but I thought the game looked really good. Yeah, Harry has a bit of a silly, like, running animation. It hasn't aged the best, and some of the visuals haven't aged amazingly well, but the voice acting as well is not the best. But I don't know, boys, I really had a good time with it. This was not a cheap one. I had to pay like 70 odd quid for this, but I honestly think it was worth every penny. Okay, it scared the absolute bejesus out of me. It had some great puzzles, and even the combat was pretty solid. Okay then, boys and girls, let's get a little bit modern. Okay, let's talk about a game that did come out this year. Okay, and that's going to be Ghost Runner 2. I was so incredibly hyped for this, lads, you have no idea. I absolutely love the original Ghost Runner. Okay, I've played that game countless times now. I've beaten it like 3 or 4 times ever since I got it, so I knew that I was like super duper excited for this. And yeah, I did a first impression video on the channel. I loved it. I loved every second of it. It was incredible. I must admit, didn't love it as much as the first one, but I still did thoroughly enjoy it. Okay, the motorcycle sections were just great. The boss battles, what I would say, were a little bit disappointing, actually. The first boss battle was incredible. I loved the first boss battle. In fact, in my first impression video, I was getting so gassed with that boss battle because it was hard, but it was fun. But after that, I was expecting there to be like tons more like really good bosses, and there was only like 2 more bosses in the whole game, and they were a little bit disappointing, so I was a little bit let down by the bosses here. But it was still a really incredibly fun game, lads. It had really addictive gameplay. It's one of those games where you die, but you just get straight back into it. You don't have to wait for like a really long loading screen. You just get instantly back into the action. And it was just an amazing game, okay? I thoroughly had a good time with this. It was great. I really would recommend this one if you can get it. Okay then, boys, let's talk about a handheld game, okay? We haven't mentioned any handheld games yet, okay? Let's talk about Shovel Knight on the PS Vita. This is a game that I've had for a good few years now, but I didn't really click with it that much a couple years ago. But I decided to give it a second chance this year. I just felt, you know what? The time is now. Let's give this a second chance. And I just really loved it, lads. This is an incredible game. I'm sure most of you guys know that by now. But the weird thing about this game is that it does start off pretty tough, and it is hard at the beginning. But as you progress through the game, it actually gets easier, in my opinion. Like, the more like power-ups you get, the more health points and magic you can upgrade. It just becomes a lot easier, and it's just not that difficult after a couple hours. Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Had some great boss battles, some really fun platforming, and the music, the soundtrack to this one is incredible. And I just had a really good time with this, okay? I would definitely recommend it. I maybe wouldn't recommend it for the Vita because it's very expensive for the Vita. You can get this game much cheaper on like the PS4 and stuff, but get this game however which way you can, okay? Because it is definitely an amazing one. Okay, boys, let's get a little bit more retro, okay? Let's get on the PS2. We've not talked about the PS2 yet. Let's talk about Urban Chaos Riot Response. This game was so fun, okay? This is like my perfect kind of first-person shooter. This is a game that came out towards the end of the PS2 life cycle, okay? It was like one of the later PS2 games, so visually this game is fantastic. It looks almost like an early PS3 game. It's a very gory game, okay? There's a lot of blood in this one, which is well up my street. There's tons of weapons, tons of variety in the weapons, and it was just a super fun one, lads. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it was super deep and it was like this emotional roller coaster. It was just pure fun.
From a nearby manufactory, this is our chance to stop these maniacs once and for all.
Okay then, boys, moving on, I'm going to get back to the Nintendo Switch, okay? I'm going to talk about a game that this was a completely, I wouldn't say unexpected, but I liked it a lot more than I thought I would, okay? And that is going to be Signalis. This game was insanely good, okay? One of the best horror experiences choked on my own words there. This is one of the best, like, survival horror games I played this year, okay? It was so good. It was literally like classic Resident Evil, but slightly more modernized. I just had a really good time with it. The atmosphere to this game is impeccable, like one of the best atmospheres in a game I've played all year. And it was just a really good sort of psychological horror game. Really, like, interesting story as well. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I fully understood the story, but I was definitely intrigued. And it just had really fun puzzles in there. It just, you know, it's like that classic Resident Evil where you're trying to find keys to certain doors, and I don't know, I just really enjoyed this one. And again, I didn't expect it to be as good as it was, and it really did surprise me. Okay then, boys and girls, let's talk about a game that did come out this year. Speaking of surprises with Signalis, this one also surprised me a lot, and that is Wulong, Fallen Destiny. This is a game that I bought, like, I heard a lot of people compare it to Sekiro, so I thought, yeah, you know what, I love Sekiro, it's my favorite game of all time, so let's give this one a go. And I wasn't expecting it to be as good as Sekiro, obviously, but you know, I just expected it to be decent because it was getting those comparisons. And was it as good as Sekiro? No, it definitely was not as good as Sekiro, but my god, was it good. Okay, some of the boss battles in this game are just perfect. Okay, some really tough bosses in here, really fun gameplay, and it was just great. This was a really good one. I would say it got a little bit repetitive towards the end, just a little bit. You know, I feel like maybe they could have shortened this game just a tiny bit, but I will say the boss battles, every single one of the bosses, I really enjoyed. Okay, that was the highlight of this game, was the boss battles. And yeah, it was just a super fun one, lads, and if you do like your games like Sekiro, where you're doing a lot of parrying and stuff, then this is going to be a game you enjoy. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a lot easier than Sekiro, but yeah, it's really good. Okay then, let's get back to a little bit more retro. Okay, let's talk about Fear Effect. Okay, this was such a good game. Okay, it was not an easy one, I will admit. This was a pretty tough retro game, but I had a blast with Fear Effect. This is one that I had my eyes on for some time. Okay, I remember when I first saw it and I was like, you know what, I really like the look of that one. It has this really nice sort of cell shaded art style, so it's aged really well visually, and it just looks like really fun. It plays very similar to like old school Resident Evil, but it's more of like an action game. But I think what really surprised me with this game, lads, was the story and the characters. I really love the story and the characters to this game. Like, it was definitely probably my favorite part of the game, was how good and well written these characters were.
Not too long, Deke. I've killed men for much less.
That's it! This is the best game ever!
But also the gameplay to this one was super good. Okay, it was tough. There were moments where I was ripping my hair out over the difficulty. But yeah, it was just a super fun like action game. It had some really good puzzles in there that were pretty tough, which was nice. And yeah, it was just a really fun game. And also like it's pretty cheap. I think this game is like a £10 game, which really is quite surprising. I would expect this game to be more expensive. I've recently picked up the second one, so I'm super looking forward to playing that. And yeah, I would definitely recommend that if you're into sort of like puzzles and sort of old school Resident Evil type games. Okay, let's talk about the game that I have actually played before. Okay, so I have beaten this before. This is my second playthrough of the game, and that game is Bioshock. Okay, and the reason I wanted to highlight it is I now love this game. Okay, this is now probably in my top 10 favorite games of all time. I loved it that much. This was one that I did play as a teenager, and I did like it. I thought it was a really good game. It was a really fun first-person shooter, but it wasn't a game that I really thought that much about. But on this second playthrough that I played this year, I mean, it just blew me away. Okay, obviously the gameplay was something that I did like a lot as a teenager, but what really blew me away was the story. Okay, I was really invested in the whole like the sort of origins of Rapture. I was listening to pretty much every audio tape I can get my hands on, really like just super invested in the story here. And I think a lot of the story went over my head when I originally played it. Okay, because I remember like even with like the twist in everybody knows the twist at this point, I wasn't that blown away by it as a teenager, but obviously when I come across it the second playthrough, I was like, oh shit, okay, that's an incredible twist. So yeah, I've got to say that the original Bioshock is now up there as one of my favorite games of all time. Unbelievable story, atmosphere just to a T is incredible. Great, everything about the game is unbelievable. If you somehow have not played Bioshock, lads, out of all the games I played this year, it was probably my favorite game. Okay, and that's why I had to highlight it. So please play Bioshock if you've never played it, because it is incredible. Okay then, boys and girls, let's talk about the PSP. Okay, I've not mentioned the PSP in today's video, and the PSP has been one of my favorite consoles this year. I've played a lot of PSP games, but one of the highlights for the PSP, in my opinion, was Ghost of Sparta. Okay, God of War. This game I had never played before. Okay, I'd never seen it in person, so I'd never picked it up. I'm a huge God of War fan, so I knew that I wanted this game, but yeah, I just never seen it for some reason. It seems quite rare, to be honest. Like, out of all the God of War games, I think this is probably the rarest. However, my mum was kind enough to get me this one for Christmas. Okay, so I was super psyched to get this. I played this like really early on in the year, and yeah, it was was such a good game, lads. A really underrated God of War game. You don't hear enough people talk about it, but I think it's really, like, up there. I do really like God of War Chains of Olympus on the PSP. That one's really good as well, but I think this one outdoes it in almost every way. I feel like the gameplay just feels a little bit better. I feel like the boss battles were better. The story was definitely better. The story to this one almost feels like a must-play God of War game for those that want to get the fullest out of the story, whereas I feel like Chains of Olympus has its moments, but the story is definitely, you could miss most of it. With this one, I really do feel like it just sets up God of War 2 perfectly, so I feel like you almost have to play this one if you want to get the best out of the God of War story. And for a handheld PSP title, it's just really good, boys. It's a really good game. It plays really well. Great story, like I said. And yeah, if you're a big God of War fan, like old school God of War, you have to play this one because it is really good. Okay, then, boys and girls, let's talk about the Nintendo Switch. Okay, this is a game that I wanted to play for years and years and years, and I just only just got around to playing it this year, and that is going to be Celeste. This is a game that I've wanted for ages, but the physical copy of this game was ridiculously expensive, and you guys know me, I don't like to buy games digitally. The limited run version of this game was like upwards of £100, which that's just too much money for me to spend on a game.
It's impossible. It's not, we cannot afford it.
So yeah, I left it for the longest time, and I did want it, believe me, but I didn't want to pay that money. However, it's got like an official release now, so it's about £20 to £30, which that's more like it, you know. I'll happily pay that. So I pre-ordered this one, okay, knowing it was going to get that physical release, and yeah, this was a really good platformer, lads. Incredibly hard, I will admit. This was not an easy one. I've played a lot of difficult games this year, but this one is definitely up there in the most difficult department. But yeah, I had an absolute blast with it, lads. It was really, really fun, and I think what really surprised me with this one was the story. I really did enjoy the story and the characters of this one. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, you know. I did hear that it was a good story, but I was sort of dismissive of it, you know. I was thinking, a platformer, you know, how good can the story really be? But no, it's got a really good story, lads. It was very, what's the word? It was very, I can't think of the word, but it was good, you know, it was a really good story. Okay, boys, next up we've got a game that I was so hyped for this year, okay? This is like up there as one of my most excited games of the year, and that is RoboCop Rogue City, okay? I just knew I was gonna love this game, okay, because I'm a huge RoboCop fan. I was so excited for this game that I even picked up the PS2 RoboCop game. The reason that game is not in today's video is that game absolutely sucks, okay? Do not play the PS2 RoboCop game. It is awful. But playing that game made me appreciate this game even more, okay? It made me love this game as much as I did, and yeah, it was really good, okay? From start to finish, I thoroughly enjoyed this one, okay? The story was fantastic, had great characters, the whole world that they set up was almost like I was playing a RoboCop movie. It was insanely gory as well, which I loved. You would just shoot people's arms and they would like explode off and blood would splurt out. It was awesome, man. I fucking loved this game. So yeah, if you're a RoboCop fan, boys, and you somehow have not played RoboCop Rogue City, what are you doing with your life, okay? You need this game in your life. This is probably, I would probably say, like, in terms of my official game of the year, of games that came out this year, I would probably put this third in my game of the year. It was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Okay then, boys and girls, we talked a little bit about some modern stuff, so yeah, let's talk about a little bit of retro, okay? Let's talk about Dino Crisis, okay? I've played a lot of Resident Evil type games this year, you know. I've played Fear Effect, I played Signalis, and we also played Dino Crisis, okay? And Dino Crisis, it's a game I've had for a few years, to be fair, and I just never got around to playing it, but I played it for the first time, and it was fantastic, boys, okay? I loved this game. I will say, I do feel like the scariness of this game was lost on me. I don't think I felt even an ounce of fear playing this one. I heard a lot of people say it was actually quite scary. I don't know, I didn't find it even remotely scary. I don't think even a single moment in this game made me jump or anything. So maybe I've just played too many horror games and I've grown a shield towards it. Saying that though, that's not even true, because I'm literally playing Resident Evil 3 Nemesis and that game was scaring the shit out of me. So yeah, it's not true. I don't know why I didn't find this game scary. I just didn't, but I still loved it, okay? The puzzles were great. Really enjoyed the puzzles here. The combat was fun, okay? Just shooting dinosaurs. Who doesn't love shooting dinosaurs? And even like the terrible voice acting in this game I liked, you know? I know it was like not good voice acting, but I still enjoyed that.
That's disgusting.
Okay then, boys and girls, I've got a Nintendo DS game here, okay? I don't play the Nintendo DS very often, but when I do, I play absolute bangers, okay? And this game is a banger, and that is going to be Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. I played this one and the second one, and I did like the second one. The second one was good, but the first one for me was absolutely just incredible, okay? I loved the first one. It's just got such amazing charm to it, you know? It's got great characters. They're really well written and hilarious. The music of this game is just so whimsical. That's the word word I'll use here. I just had a really good time with Phoenix Wright, okay? It's a really good visual novel, so yeah, if you're into visual novels, you absolutely have to play Phoenix Wright. It was so fun. I really want to get the third one. That's the only one I haven't played out of the original 3. I played the first 2 now, so I really want to get my hands on that third one, and I've heard that apparently that is the best one, so I'm very excited. Okay then, boys and girls, next up we'll talk about the Nintendo Switch, okay? I just played a lot of Nintendo Switch games this year. I had a really good time with the Nintendo Switch, okay? And one of my favorite games that I played this year was Kirby and the Forgotten Land. What a game, okay? This game was incredible, okay? I love me some Kirby. I'll make no secret about that. I'm a big Kirby fan. I just like games that... I like my challenging games. I mean, there's some challenging games here in this pile, but I also like games that aren't challenging, okay? And Kirby is one of those where it's just fun, you know? You're not going to be stressing. You're not going to be tearing your hair out. It's not going to frustrate you in any way. But they're just fun and colourful, and nice music is there, and it's just a lovely, lovely fun time, you know? It's just going to be completely chill and great vibes and everything. In my opinion, Forgotten Land is like the best Kirby game ever made, okay? I cannot believe this is the first time they ever did 3D, because you'd think they've been making 3D games for their entire life. I did also play Kirby and, what's it called? Kirby Planet Robobot on the 3DS. I did also play that one. I didn't want to talk about every single Kirby game. I played quite a few Kirby games this year. I just thought I'd talk about this one because this was my favorite out of all the Kirby games I played. And yeah, if you haven't played this one, lads, it's a really good time, okay? It's super fun. It's got really good platforming. It's just a good time, you know? You would literally just play this game and have fun, okay? I can't imagine anyone playing this game and not having fun. Okay then, boys and girls, next up we will talk about... Oh, I'm not sure what should we talk about. Let's talk about the PS2. I haven't talked about the PS2 that much in this video, even though, like, the PS2 is, like, my favorite console of all time. But yeah, let's talk about Tekken Tag Tournament, okay? I've been playing a ton of Tekken, but specifically in November, I played a lot of Tekken games. Out of all the Tekken games I played, it was pretty close between Tekken Tag and Tekken 3. Tekken 3 was incredible as well, but I think I enjoyed Tekken Tag the most, okay? I was really blown away by how good this game was. I just felt like the gameplay was super fluent. I had a really good soundtrack. I would have liked a bit more story here. The story, I mean, it really isn't a story, to be honest with you. You'll beat the game with a certain character, and you'll get a little cutscene at the end, and most of them are just completely irrelevant.
Okay. That shit was ass.
But strictly talking about the gameplay here, a really fun Tekken game. I had an absolute blast with it. I 100% completed it. I got all of the unlockables. And also, I think it's worth mentioning that Tekken Bowling is just an incredible, like, sort of side game. I probably spent just as much time doing Tekken Bowling as I did playing the actual game, okay? So yeah, this is easily one of my favorite Tekken games of all time. Okay then, boys, next up I'm going to talk about a game that I think is insanely underrated. I've seen this game get bashed and criticized, and for the life of me, I do not understand it. And it's not a perfect game by any means, but I just think it's a really decent game, okay? And that is going to be Callisto Protocol. This game is so underrated, okay? I loved it. This was an incredible game. Again, it's not a perfect game. It does have its flaws, admittedly. I'll be the first to admit that, but I just think this game is a really fun, you know, zombie game. Well, it's not really zombies, but, you know, monster game, I suppose. And this game has incredible atmosphere. I played this game in the dark with headphones, and it was just really oozing that atmosphere. It was fun. It was gory. It was so gory. I love, if you can't tell, lads, I love my gory games, okay? If there's tons of blood in a game, chances are I'll like it. And I just had a really good time with it, you know? And I even played the DLC. I did that on stream on this channel, and I had a really good time with the DLC as well. So yeah, I would recommend Callisto Protocol. I think this game is a little bit underrated, you know? I don't feel like this game got the praise that it deserved. Okay then, boys and girls, let's talk about my favorite PSP game that I played this year, okay? This PSP game, speaking of underrated, I think this game is pretty damn underrated, okay? And that's gonna be Killzone Liberation. This game is amazingly fun. This is one that I've had for years. Like, I think I had this when I originally had the PSP when I was a teenager. I got fairly far into it, if I remember correctly, but I didn't end up finishing it for some reason. I think I maybe got stuck on it. And then for whatever reason, I just sort of felt like playing it this year. I had a look at it on my shelf, and I was like, you know what? It's calling my name. I want to play it again. So I started a new game, and I started playing through it. And yeah, I was blown away by how good it was, boys. It was an incredibly fun game. It's honestly probably one of my my favorite Killzone games, and I do like the Killzone series quite a bit. So I think what really surprised me with this one is just how tactical it was. Like, the AI in this game is really good. Like, you'll be like near trip mines and stuff, and the AI would like shoot the trip mines to blow you up, which I think is really smart. The way they sort of flank you is really good. It just has a really good AI to it that makes it like really fun and challenging. And for those who don't know, this isn't like a first-person shooter like the other Killzone games. This is like a top-down shooter. You've got all the classic Killzone weapons that you would expect, so it still plays somewhat similarly. But yeah, I just thought it was a really fun like sort of top-down shooter that I had a really good time with. So yeah, if you haven't played this one, lads, and you like your PSP games, I would definitely recommend that one. Okay then, boys, we're coming towards the end of my games here, and there's a lot of games I've talked about today, so we're coming towards the end. But the next game we'll talk about is a PS2 one that completely blew me away. I did not expect to like this game as much as I did, and that is Zone of the Enders. This is one that I remember seeing gameplay for a little while ago, and I was like, you know what, their game is fairly cheap, so if I ever see it, I'll pick it up. And I did see it for cheap, so I picked it up. And yeah, I just sat on my shelf for a little while, didn't think too much about it, and then for some reason I just sort of felt like playing it. I remember I was sat in my room. I think I actually had COVID at the time, so I was fairly ill, and I just wanted something to play, and I just was like, you know what, let's just play Zone of the Enders. You know, I didn't really think too much of it. I just thought, yeah, it'll be a good time. And I was just completely mesmerized by this game. Okay, this game, I don't even know how to describe it, but it's a game that would only get made during the PS2 era. They made games like this only in the PS2 era. And there's a certain atmosphere this game sort of draws. It's similar to like Tekken 4 and Metal Gear Solid 2. I don't know, it just has that sort of atmosphere, and I don't even know how to like explain it, but it just does. And it's one of those games where you play it and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about, but if you don't play it, then you'll think I'm fucking crazy.
You're talking absolute shit again.
But anyway, I just really love the visual style to this game. I really enjoyed the gameplay. I didn't think I would like the gameplay as much as I did, because I've never really played any mech games, but the game, to my surprise, was actually fairly simple to pick up. It wasn't like super advanced in terms of the mech gameplay, but it was pretty simple. I just had a really amazing time with it. Okay, I liked the story, I enjoyed the characters, I enjoyed the world. The world in this game is just really well set up, and there's actually an anime of Zone of the Enders, and I watched the anime after playing this game because I was just really interested in this whole world. And yeah, I just had a really good time with this one, lads, and I've only just recently picked up Zone of the Enders 2, which I'm so excited to play after playing this one. So yeah, if you can get hold of Zone of the Enders, then I would definitely recommend it. Okay then, boys and girls, the second to last game I want to talk about is a game that I had a ton of fun with. I knew I was going to like this game, okay, and that is going to be My Friend Pedro. This is just my type of game. I really like games like this, and like games like Hotline Miami, you know, those kinds of games that you just rack up a lot of kills and you can die really quickly, but then you restart and you're right back into the action. I enjoy those types of games. My Friend Pedro was nowhere near as difficult as games like Hotline Miami. I didn't die nearly as much as I did in this that I did with the games like Hotline Miami, but yeah, it was a really good game, really good soundtrack. It's just an incredibly fun game, very addictive. Unfortunately though, it is really short. I would have liked this game to be a bit longer because I was having a really good time with it, but I ended up finishing it in like 2 days. So yeah, if you do like games like Hotline Miami, lads, then check out My Friend Pedro. It's an absolute blast. Okay then, lads, the final game I want to talk about is actually my official game of the year, okay? Out of all the games that came out this year, this would be my game of the year, okay? And that is going to be no surprise to anyone that follows this channel on a regular basis, but yeah, that game is going to be Resident Evil 4. I have talked so highly about the original Resident Evil 4 that I'm sure most of you guys knew that this video would be somewhere in this list of games. But yeah, I thought this game was utterly fantastic, okay? I loved every damn second of it, okay? I bought this game pretty much as I was moving house, okay? So as I was moving into this house, I was playing this game, and I've got some really fond memories now of like, I just remember like I had none of my stuff out, all of my stuff was in boxes, and there was a little bit of chaos in this house, and it was kind of stressful, to be honest with you, because I was starting to having to like pay bills and shit, and it was all a little bit overwhelming. But then I would come and play this game and it would make it all better. They pretty much just made the perfect remake here, lads. They improved on so many aspects of Resident Evil 4 whilst adding a lot of new stuff. The story was a lot better this time around. I felt like Resident Evil 4 story was a little bit silly at times, and there's a lot of characters in there like Ashley that I really didn't like. However, I did actually like her in the remake. They did a good job with her, and I just really enjoyed this one, lads, okay? I still absolutely love the original, and it would always have a place in my heart, but I also now love the remake, okay? And if you haven't played it somehow, then you definitely have to. Okay then, boys and girls, that is like my game of the year, okay? My very own weird sort of game of the year, even though half of these games did not come out this year. And that is a lot of games, boys and girls, and I've played a lot more this year. I must have played at least 100 games this year at least. I played a lot, but these are just the highlights in my opinion. But yeah, let me know, boys and girls, what are some of the games that you've been playing this year? I don't even care if it came out this year or not. Just let me know some games that you guys have been playing this year. I would love to know. Other than that, boys and girls, subscribe here if you're new, and I'll see you guys in the next one, alright? Peace.